getting sued by just like random people that are looking for trouble, right? The last time we got sued was we had a comedy night. And this guy allegedly was there and he was deaf and he asked for a translator, but we didn't have one. But the guy wasn't there. He never showed up. It's called a drive-by lawsuit, right? So
today we have Daniel Bentacourt, co-owner of Ambience, owner of Wish You Were Here Coffee, co-founder of Kio Coffee, and partner of the Daily Grind Trading. How are you, Daniel?
good. It sounds like a lot. Doing amazing today. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for coming to the pod.
My pleasure.
Yeah, yesterday I was looking at your stories of yours and Wish You Were Here, and you had Daniel Lux. How was that?
So Daniel Lux, he's a up-and-coming celebrity. I want to say he's already coming. He's already famous. He has like 1.5 million followers on Instagram. Just some young kid whose dad used to work at Coachella picking up trash. And now it's really awesome that his dad gets to see him play Coachella, right? So that's an amazing accomplishment on his part to make his family proud and on his own part. And the kid's only 20. We got him there through some connections that I have. My friend Eric, he works for the Regent and Golden Voice, and they just needed a spot to sell tickets and meet the fans. And they fortunately picked Wish You Were Here Coffee. So that was an amazing event. We really brought in some new people. We got to meet this Daniel Lux. He played a couple of songs with fans that brought guitars. So that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, and where is he having his concert?
Right here at the Fox Theater. He's performing next Sunday. So I also have tickets if you want some. Yeah, so.
And where is that? Where's the Fox Theater?
Fox Theater's in downtown Pomona on the corner of Gary and 3rd. It's been there for hundreds of years. They just remodeled it, I want to say, 20 years ago. And they reopened it as a music venue about 15 years ago, I want to say now, or a little bit more. And it's just, that's been the life of the downtown Pomona, because if it wasn't for the Fox Theater coming up again, there would be no bars, there'd be no nightlife, no coffee shops. It'd just be plain and boring again. So I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, and then your coffee shop is right across.
Right across, man, just diagonal from it. It's Wish You Were Here Coffee on the corner of Gary and 3rd as well, directly across from the Fox Theater. So it was very accessible for the artists and I guess people that are going to the show, they come and check out the spot before and after coffee in the morning and then alcohol at night.
Yeah, alcohol at night. And what inspired you to start the coffee shop? What's the story behind it?
So the story behind it, so every great idea I have has been inspired by a drunken moment of mine, right? So I'm always drinking and always not always drinking, sorry. Every time I have an idea is when I'm drinking because I'm like trying to think of something to do or something new to do. So I go have a drink. And then I was sitting next to a friend of mine who had opened a few coffee shops in her past. And I'm like, what can we do with the upstairs? Because it's a 2-story building, right? So we have the pub and the downstairs and we're doing absolutely nothing in the upstairs, right? And we just needed something. This is right after COVID. So they gave us some money to invest, right? So we just had to come up with an idea. The first idea was doing a dispensary, but that got rejected right away because we're too close to schools, right? So what's the second best thing after a dispensary that would bring morning traffic and sitting next to a person that has opened coffee shops before, I'm like, a coffee shop, right? So it was really easy kind of setting it up for a coffee shop because we had the space, we had tables, we had a bar. All we had to do was build coffee bar top and then a concrete top that's facing the outside just to give students a view of the outside or some good seating. So the construction wasn't too hard. It was just more of getting the word out there. But I don't know if you know, before we opened our coffee shop, there was already 2 coffee shops in there that I was renting the space out to. They're pop-up coffee shops, coffee carts. One was called Ironkin, who is now in downtown Claremont, is very successful. And the other one is Caps and Drips. So I don't know what they're doing now, but they didn't end up working out. So the room upstairs was already kind of tied up with coffee for a while. So it was became a no-brainer at some point that we have to do a permanent location for a coffee shop. So that's where Wish You Were Here sprung up from.
How'd you pick the name?
Funny. Well, funny and a little sad. So I have a tattoo right here on my arm. It says Wish You Were Here. It's got some flowers. It has an hourglass. It's a tribute to my aunt who passed away from liver cancer, the year before I opened the coffee shop. And I was just sitting down wondering like, what can I call the coffee shop? What can I call the coffee shop? And I just remembered like I would love hanging out with my aunt, just drinking some pan con café. So I'm like, why don't I just call it Wish You Were Here, right? So that name like holds some real value for me, because it's not only a tribute to my aunt that passed away from cancer, but also a tribute to my brother who also passed away. He passed away like, I want to say 3 months after we opened the coffee shop. So it's I'm not saying it worked out, but the name itself became even more important, more fitting to what I was dedicating the shop to.
And I feel that it was a good name that you picked, also because of the background story that it has, but it looks like the community has accepted the name.
Yeah. So a lot of people come in and ask what the story behind Wish You Were Here is. I tell them about the tribute to my aunt and brother, and also people ask if it's a tribute to the song by Incubus. I'm like, no, not the song by Incubus. It's a song by Pink Floyd. So that's one of my favorite songs as well. One of my wife's favorite songs as well. And the Wish You Were Here song means a lot for both of us. It reminds her of her dad, and it reminds me of my brother and my aunt. Her dad passed away from cancer. My aunt passed away from cancer. My brother passed away from other complications. And the community just loves it, right? They pronounce the abbreviation WYWH, was WYWH. Like, hey, we're going to go to WYWH, or we're just going to go Wish You Were Here. And it's such, it's just so tied up with the community that the name has traveled all the way to, like, I know people that live in Fresno that I work with, like, oh yeah, we're going to this coffee shop and Wish You Were Here. I'm like, that's my coffee shop, right? Like, the brand is expanding so well. I think it's just the name itself. People just really have bonded themselves to it because of the kind of like the meaning it holds. If the same meaning it holds for me, it holds for a lot of people. I've had remember the first week I opened the shop, there's this lady that asked me what the name standed for, and I told her the story, and she's like, that's so beautiful because I thought how would she say? She said, I tied up the name the same way you tied up the name with your aunt, but I tied it up with my husband because I used to go out for donut coffee with my husband all the time. And now he's no longer with us. So I have the same meaning, like wish my husband was here having this coffee with me. So I think a lot of people are finding the same connection that I brought the name up to mean for them as well. So whatever I brought it up for myself, it also means the same for them, which is really awesome.
How did you design the ambience of the shop?
So the design, I just wanted something dark, so we designed the shop around the espresso machine. I brought the espresso machine first, and it's black and gold. And like, what goes with black and gold? Black, gold, blue. So our tables are all black. The legs are blue. The walls I painted dark gray, dark blue. I just really wanted like kind of like an industrial, vibey, not so bright, easy on the eyes type of look. And I think we accomplished that pretty good. Like there's enough natural sunlight coming into the business that we didn't really need to brighten anything in there up to make it more appealing. It's more like we needed to make it more comfortable, easier on the eyes, easier on just letting you sit down and relax, right? So it was all about the vibes, and I think we've nailed it on that, yeah.
In what ways do you strive to make your coffee shop a gathering place for the community?
I think we accomplished that by also offering food, right? So there's a lot of coffee shops in downtown. I mean, Starbucks closed down, but what we needed was a good sit-down place, some comfy chairs, and food to not only bring students, but also bring families, right? So if you think of a coffee shop, you think about college students, right? We already had that. We had college students, but I wanted to bring families out, so we offer food now, and it's very fitting for the Latino community. We started off with like chilaquiles, rajas con queso, rajas con crema. We did nopales at some point. Just very nostalgic food. And now we're like adding more stuff. We have like a banh mi. We have patty melts. We have waffles with like seasonal fruit on them. I think it was just more like, what was the downtown looking for? I asked myself, what would I want in downtown? And what would I go to? Like, what would make me get up in the morning to go to downtown to this coffee shop? And it was coffee and food.
And what challenges have you faced?
Financial troubles, employees troubles, stress troubles, and just like doing too much, right? I sometimes spread myself thin, but it's kind of finding balance between yourself and finding good employees, right? So you just got to keep looking for good employees, ones that you can trust. They can go home and be comfortable, knowing that the place is in good hands. And I think I'm getting really close. I think I'm there right now. Financial troubles, just because, as we all know, like inflation really hurt a lot of businesses, including small businesses, especially small businesses, because we couldn't really just raise the cost of food and drinks to match the growing wages, right? So when I opened the bar, the minimum wage was $10. Minimum wage right now is $15.50. I took over the bar in 2018. So in the span of 4.5 years, the minimum wage has increased by 50%. Like I can't increase the price of beer by 50% or the price of food by 50% because I'll lose my customers. So I was really just kind of adding value to the company. So the only way to solve that problem, it's a revenue problem. So you got to bring in more customers. So bringing in volume. So we solved that problem with the coffee shop. Other troubles is getting sued by just like random people that are looking for trouble, right? Last time we got sued was we had a comedy night. And this guy allegedly was there and he was deaf and he asked for a translator, but we didn't have one. But the guy wasn't there. He never showed up. It's called a drive-by lawsuit, right? So there's a lawyer that sends out people that have disabilities because California has ADA. And they look for places that they can go sue, right? They found us. And this lawyer, if you look him up, he has like 5,000 open cases. So we didn't want to fight him because we're going to lose because ADA it's like a free handout. So we had to pay this guy $12,000 just so he wouldn't have to bring up lawyers or anything. Just it was a settlement, $12,000 settlement. And this was right before COVID hit. So we went into COVID already broke and paying this guy $12,000. And it just became this big old headache. And we're just like 3 partners putting more money into a business that started failing because of COVID. And it's just the fear of failure. I think it's the biggest thing you got to get over as a business owner. The fear of failure because you're going to reach a really low spot. And then once you reach that low spot, you tell yourself, all right, it cannot get worse than this. And then something else comes and hits you. But it's just about getting over that bridge pretty much. So financial issues, employees issues, it's part of being a small business owner for sure.
And who do you go to when you have those low points? Business or
I lean towards my family, my wife, especially my wife. Like she always reminds me everything's gonna be okay. Like you've gone through so much already, right? Especially now, like getting over COVID, like that's our lowest point, right? Shut down for 2 years, no warning, just shut us down before the biggest day every year. It was St. Patty's Day. I remember 2020 St. Patty's Day. They told us the day before that we cannot open for St. Patrick's Day, and we had just spent $10,000 on inventory prep and everything just trash because we couldn't sell it or anything, right? So that was very stressful and depressing, but it was just my wife who kept telling me, like, don't worry, they're going to have to help you somehow. They're not going to just let restaurants fail, right? Just kind of keep reminding you that you're not the only one that's going through this, right? There's all these small businesses, all these restaurants, even the big restaurants for like, we're just holding our hands out, like help us out, right? So you asked me who I go to, and I'm gonna say my wife, right? She's my pillar, right? When I need to lead on something, it's her. And thank God, because we got through it, and I think at the end of that, at the other side of that bridge was success, right? We're doing great now. The name is out there, the bar's doing great, the coffee's doing better. It's just holding on tight. I have friends who also own coffee shops, and they're going through the same situation. They're having financial issues, but I just remind them, like, dude, just remind yourself why you opened this place, or why you wanted to open a coffee shop, and did you tell yourself, what if you run into these type of issues? What are you gonna do, right? And I told them just keep fighting, take out loans, because on the other side of this failure is bankruptcy. So you're gonna end up, if you fail, that's where you end up anyways. So try your hardest before you get there. Like I said, the biggest issue that small businesses run into is fear, right? The fear of just failure. And that's on our minds all the time. We go to bed thinking of like, oh, what can go wrong tonight, right? So it's a big mental game with small business owners for sure.
It's so true what they say, behind a good man, there's a great woman.
Exactly, yeah.
And how long did you have to wait? Because I know you mentioned that they were not going to let business fail. How long did you have to wait to get that?
To the last minute, my guy. I remember exactly how much money we had left in the bank account. We had $68.09. the day that they told us PPP loans are coming out, right? I was like, I knew there was help on the way, right? PPP loans, PPP loan was the employee paycheck protection program where they give you money and they told us you have to pay it back at some point, but we need you to, if you gave your employees a paycheck, here it is. Here's some money, keep paying your employees to keep you open. So they sent out PPP loan twice. This is like a year into COVID being shut down, right? Because we're still paying rent, we're still paying insurance, we're still paying electricity, we're still paying taxes. Everything, nothing got paused. Rent was still there. Luckily, our landlord gave us he said, you don't have to pay me right now, but pay me after. So that was nice of him. But we paid him back in full. And then the real big help that allowed us to open the coffee shop came in 2 years after. So we were reopened, and it's called the Restaurant Revitalization Fund that was meant for minority business owners, veterans, and women business owners, right? Luckily, me and my business partner are both Latino, or two of us out of the three, right? So I filed that right away. And the most insane thing about that fund was that they gave you every single dollar back that you lost. Like, what they did was they compared your 2019 sales to your 2020 sales. You subtract that, and that's how much they gave you. So we lost $670,000, and that's how much they gave us back to the dime, right? So if it was for that, I can guarantee you I wouldn't be here in this podcast because I'd be working somewhere else, right? So thank God for that fund, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to pay our taxes. We wouldn't be able to pay back our rent. We have no employees. Just so much things that we were backed up on for the last 2 years. And then we had leftover money, so that's how we took that and we opened the coffee shop because we needed to add value and fix that revenue issue that we're having. Yeah. So now we have like 2 businesses in one. So it's been good since then.
How do you train your staff to ensure they provide excellent customer service and consistently prepare high quality coffee?
So customer service is really hard to teach. You can't really teach it. It has to be part of the employee's ambition to give good customer service, right? So if you go to Starbucks, they have most of the time great customer service. They're always peppy and smiley and happy. I've had my share of employees that you just cannot teach it, right? It's always going to be like they're doing good for a little bit and then they get overwhelmed, and then like this very angry employee comes out and they share that with the customer. So I'm not 100% there yet. There's employees that could be better for sure, but they do good in one part but lack in customer service. But we just got to keep reminding them, right? I have good managers that are always listening. So if they hear them like kind of like falling off the wagon on customer service, like, hey, got to remember, like I got to put a smile on, got to ask them how their day is going, because they're here to have a coffee. They're here for their day to get better, and we need to help them, right? And you got to remember, they're tipping you, right? Because we have that whole tipping system that everybody's talking about right now. Like it pops up in front of you, like asking for the tip, like 15, 20, 25%. So we're those people that pressure the customer to tip. So I got to remind you, they're tipping you before you even serve them. So make sure you make it memorable for them. Make sure they want to come back so they can tip you again, right? So customer service is not something you can really train to. It has to be part of the person's personality, right? Because you could have a really nice person that's going to be great at customer service. You can have a good person that's really fast at making coffee, but just have an attitude with customers that aren't patient or they have no patience. So it's a very kind of slippery slope with employees. So you can get, you have to have a balance, right? You have to have your employees that have good customer service in front of the register, and then the employees that have not so great customer service, but are good at making coffee behind the coffee machine. So they can hide themselves, which a lot of them do. Like they use a machine, kind of shield themselves from customers. Because not all of them are very, what's the word when someone's like outgoing? Oh, extroverted or introverted, right? So they're polar opposites. So we have both of those.
And sometimes when they're introvert, it's not that they're mad at you.
Yeah.
They're just introverts.
Exactly, right? They're like hiding behind a coffee.
Yeah, they're hiding. Or their face shows smile.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're mad at you.
Yeah.
It's just, that's their personality.
Exactly. And I can't fire people for that, right? It's not who I am. It's just, they got to give these people a chance, right? They're looking for a job. They're doing good. They're doing part of their job good. So you got to, as a manager or as an owner, you got to find the right place for your employee. Like, all right, you're good here, I'm going to put you here. You're good there, I'm going to put you there, right? If you suck at this, I'm not going to put you there, because that's a manager job, right? Got to manage your team around. Yeah.
And I think people will tip them because we see them how hard they're working.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to coffee shops, I see them working hard, and I'll tip.
Yeah, because you see the line behind you, like, damn. So like two of them back there, because the machine's only so big, right? And the behind the bar is only so big. People will leave reviews like, oh my God, I had to, like, shit you not, sorry. There's people that leave reviews, I had to wait 5 minutes for my coffee. Oh, lady, it's not fast food. 5 minutes isn't that long. Or people like, oh, I waited in line. I'm like, yeah, it's a busy place. Like, Yelp is like the worst thing to ever exist for the restaurants, right? It gives Karens a platform to go complain. You know, they're not having a good time at home with their husband, so they're trolling online. But I appreciate you tipping. Appreciate it. We all do. You know, the service industry appreciates people that tip.
No, and I think people understand. I mean, there's some people that won't understand. They're used to that quick service. But if you're going to go into a coffee shop, you have to understand you're going to wait.
Exactly.
When it's good.
Yeah.
Because I know you mentioned the coffee shop that started there. They're now in Claremont.
Mm-hmm.
If you go there during the day, they also have a long line.
Oh, line out the door, man.
You've been there. Yeah. It's a long line.
Yeah.
And you got to wait.
Yeah, and there's Starbucks there too. So, but people appreciate, you know, the ritual that, you know, coffee is a ritual. That's their logo. Coffee is a ritual because it takes time and it gives you time to kind of like think about your thought or just kind of play in your head, right? Think about your head. It's not something fast. It's not just press a button and here comes, you know, cappuccino. It's something like we got to steam the milk. We got to grind your coffee to the right dial, right? Every morning that the coffee shop opens, the first thing the barista does is dial in the coffee, right? So what they do is they dose it out. They get the right amount of weight. They get the grind just perfect, and then they test it 3 times. We waste so much coffee to dial it in, but because we want it to taste good, right? Because if a coffee is not good, it's going to come out either sour or super bitter, but you want something right in the middle. Like a little bitter and a little bit acidic, right? And that takes time. Like throughout the day, the machine changes, so we have to change the dial, and that's what it's called specialty coffee too, right? Because we really pay attention down to the decimal points of how the coffee should be. Perfectionist is what baristas are. Like I've been a bartender and I've been a barista. Barista's harder. It's a lot more hard because alcohol, you could, you know, miss measurements by a little bit and the drink will still be good. Coffee, you gotta nail it or it's gonna taste off right away because acidic coffee with milk is not gonna taste good, right?
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And let's move on to Carajillo Coffee. What inspired you to start this brand?
So Carajillo Coffee, another crazy story. So I have a cousin named Fernando who lives in Mexico, and he also loves coffee. He's from Guadalajara, and he hit me up one day like, hey, asking about, you know, his coffee machine, like how, because he knows I have one at home. It's like, hey, I'm trying to like dial in my coffee machine, but it's not coming out right. So I told him this, do this, do that. He's like, oh, okay, my friend owns a coffee shop here in Mexico, so I'm gonna go ask him for some beans. I was like, hey, are you interested in buying, you know, coffee from Mexico? I'm like, kinda. I'm like, yeah, like I'm interested in like doing some importing. He's like, oh, okay, like you should come to Mexico. I'm like, all right. So I booked the flight the next week, right? And then we flew to Nayarit. So we go to the farm there, and dude, I caught the red eye, so I was like super tired, you know, and I was like falling asleep at the farm. I was just so tired, and I've never drank so much coffee in my life. This guy would not stop serving me coffee. Just like, here, try this one, try that one, try this one. So I was super tired at this coffee farm, and the guy's like, oh, by the way, we have 8 tons of coffee that we're trying to sell. He's like, oh yeah, I'll take them. And I had no idea how much 8 tons of coffee was, right? And so I had to rent out a spot in downtown Pomona. I had to rent out a warehouse just to keep the coffee in. And then here comes like 6 pallets of coffee. Like I was like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? Like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to start a business out of this, right? Yeah. So I bought the product first, and then I started the business. So here I'm sitting on a bunch of coffee from Nayarit. But Nayarit is beautiful, man. Nayarit is ocean, hills, volcano. So you have water, volcano, and hills. You have like 3 and the soil is so rich from the salt, from the volcanic ashes, and then just all the rain that get there. So I think that was like the recipe for a perfect coffee. And so we only use Mexican coffee beans. We get them from Chiapas, we get them from Nayarit, we got from Oaxaca, Puebla, Huatusco, I think is the place called. So it's all Mexican coffee, and it's so easy to get coffee from Mexico because it's more affordable now. And they've done really good now with the quality because Mexican coffee back in the day, the quality was kind of low, but the farmers are paying a lot of attention now, and they're seeing like the price behind selling to specialty coffee shops, right? So Mexican coffee, the price is going up now because the peso is so strong against the dollar, a lot of geopolitical issues. It's just so easy to break in because it's right across the border. So I was able to bring in 8 tons of coffee as a first-time buyer. So the story behind Carajillo is just a stupid idea that turned into a good idea, right? I bought all this coffee, no idea what to do with it. I bought a storage room and then just started this new brand. And now I sell to like 5 coffee shops. We used to sell on Amazon, but I stopped doing that because it's very expensive as a private brand trying to make money on Amazon because you have to spend a lot of money on advertising. So all our money went to advertising on Amazon. So now I just kind of sell wholesale online, sell wholesale to coffee shops. And my biggest customer is myself. I sell to the coffee shop. So that's what I do with that.
And what approaches have you found successful in promoting your coffee brand?
Amazon was a big one. So we use it for advertising. So as soon as we got our name out there, I added QR codes inside the bags. So when somebody would buy on Amazon, they'd open it and they have a QR code and it'd lead them to my website. So when we stopped selling on Amazon, we noticed that the traffic on our website increased a lot. People ask us like, when are you gonna go back on Amazon? Like the shipping is free. But I'd explain to them like we were losing money there. So we kind of came here now so we could pay the farmers a better wage. So they understood that. So they're still buying online. So e-commerce, this coffee is doing really good for sure.
Okay. Now, well, thank you for sharing the story for Carajillo. I know you spoke about giving advice to other coffee shop owners, but what advice would you give to people that are starting their business and also coffee shop owners that are struggling?
Okay, so the jumping to a small business, that's what it really takes is a leap of faith, right? Because all you hear about small businesses is the struggle of starting, right? So when I took over the bar is when I became a small business owner. This was right after college. I graduated from Cal Fullerton. I have my degree in engineering, but I said, you know what, the heck with it. Do I really want to sit behind a computer, designing stuff on CAD software, or do I want to do something that I enjoyed? Because I was a starving student and I became a bartender. And I really loved, talking to people, serving them. So then I had the angel investor come through and it's like, hey, like I see your passion behind what you do. So here's the money. So you just, as someone that's going to a small business, I suggest finding that person that believes in you because you don't want to go into it alone. But I also do say partnerships are really hard, right? So for people looking for a small business, take that leap of faith, but protect yourself at the same time. Be really careful who you partner yourself with, and make sure you establish at the beginning of that partnership that the profits will be paid depending on your performance, right? Like if you start a partnership with 3 people and then 2 years later, it's only one of you working hard, then that one person should be getting paid the most, right? Whoever works the most gets paid the most. And that's how it should be because if it's not, you're going to have problems. And if you're going into it by yourself, man, be prepared. It's scary, but I don't want to scare anybody, but it's a scary environment right now with the cost of everything and just being feels like we're getting pushed out by the bigger companies, right? But advice I would give you is just going to small business with the mindset that you might fail, not once, you might fail twice, you might fail 3 times, but don't be afraid to fail, right? That's the thing that will hold you back the most. The fear of failing. We're all going to fail at some point. I failed a couple times already with the business, but I was able to pull myself out of that failure, right? And there's like obstacles that are going to be thrown at you that you have no control over, whether it's employees, whether it's COVID, whether it's getting sued by somebody. You just got to figure out how you're going to pull yourself out of this hole that you just got dug into, that you didn't expect, right? Because nobody expected COVID, but we survived it by like the hair on our chin, right? $68.09 is what we had in our account. So we barely made it, but just remind yourself, like, why did I want to do this? Why did I become a small business owner? And what's the reward I seek from this, right? Just constantly remind yourself, why did I do this? Did I do this just as a hobby, or did I do this because I want to be successful at some point and I want to serve people and I want to be part of the community? Just keep reminding yourself why you did it in the beginning.
And what rewards have you got?
Being able to sit at home, enjoy my time with my baby, who's going to turn 1 year next week. and with my wife, right? I worked every single day as a small business owner for 4 years, 16-hour shifts a day, right? I had blisters on my feet. I had no time with my wife, right? No time for myself. I really lost track of my health. But now, like, I'm taking care of myself. I stopped drinking a couple years ago when my brother passed away, and it just really spending time at home is so comfortable, man. Like, I don't want to go out anymore. I used to go all the time. I just want to stay home. Like, my friends already know not to ask me if I want to go hang out at a bar because I'm going to say no, right? I'm like Adam Sandler. I don't know if you heard the story about Adam Sandler. The 20 years that he's been married with his wife, he never once left them alone at home to go out with friends. He never did. Like, that's what I plan on doing. I don't want to go out. I'm going to hang out with my daughter and my wife at home. And that's what success to me is, having that time.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your expertise and passion with us today. And to our listeners, we invite you to join us again next time as we continue to have guests come to share their knowledge and views both on company building and experience. Daniel, how can they find you on Instagram or?
So on Instagram, I have a few profiles. I have Wish You Were Here, so WYWH .coffee, DGT_Dan or Donovan's _pub, all the businesses.
Thank you, Daniel.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.